Folks, and welcome to another episode of Cooking Church. My name's Peter and I'm here to present to you some of my favourite passions. Of course, my passion for talking about Jesus and his liberation for us all, and of course also my passion for cooking. This week I gave everybody a couple of options to choose from. Most of them were savoury, but there was the sticky date pudding which seemed to win overwhelming support. And so today I'm here to make sticky date pudding for you, and I'm going to get straight into it because I've got some boiling water I need to deal with, and I want to do it while it stays hot. So I've got 1 teaspoon of baking soda, or what we would call in Australia bicarb soda. So 1 teaspoon in my trusty little pot, and then a cup of boiling water. And into that cup of boiling water and bicarb soda, which is fizzing up now, I'm going to put in 2 cups of pitted dates that have been cut in half. So there's 1 cup, and I'm guessing that'll be another cup. Close enough. It's better to have too many than not enough. I'll be finishing them off in a minute. So they're going to rest in that water for 10 minutes or so. The bicarb soda mixes with the boiling water and helps them become tender, so that in 10 minutes or so I shall be able to mash them up. While I'm waiting for that to happen, I am going to follow my recipe, and I've got some butter here, and I need 80 grams of butter, which is about 6 tablespoons. I'm lucky on this wrapper. It's got measurements on the side, so I can just set that out straight and go for 6 tablespoons of room temperature butter. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So 6 tablespoons of room temperature butter. And then once I've got that cut, I'm going to make it into small pieces, and I'm going to throw it into the mixing bowl. Small little chunks like so, just makes it easy to mix up. And then I'm going to put in some sugar. You can use caster sugar, although I'm going to choose to use brown sugar. It just gives it, I think, a little bit more of a richer, deeper flavour to it. So I'm going to want to put in, let me check up, I'm going to want to put in half a cup of brown sugar. So you want it reasonably well packed, like so. Half a cup goes in there, and then just start beating. And while that's beating, we want it to become a creamy sort of consistency. Obviously, if you use caster sugar, it's going to become creamier, but with the brown sugar, you can still get a pretty nice consistency in there. Just want to make sure it's fully mixed up, fully combined, which is looking pretty good. It's easy to do when the butter's at room temperature. And then into that mixture, I'm going to add 2 whole eggs. I usually use the jumbo, and I try to use the free range eggs because I care for chickens, but more than the chickens, I also think that the free range gives you a better quality egg. I think it must have a higher protein content or something. It's certainly got a better egg yolk in it than the regular caged egg. So I mix that up as well. I'm going to have to get my little spatula out and combine it all up. Let's do that. Where is it? Here it is. So we're going to combine all that up because the butter and everything sticks to the sides a little bit. So we mix that up, give it another mix, and then it'll be ready to put the flour in. The recipes always say to sift the flour, but for some reason or other, when I cook and I don't sift them, it always seems to work out anyway. So I'm going into those 2 eggs, into that 80 grams or 6 tablespoons of butter, and into the half a cup of brown sugar, I'm going to add 3/4 cup of self-raising flour, or In America, it's called self-rising flour, which is an interesting change, isn't it? Self-raising flour, 3/4 of a cup, mix that together. That's all good. Again, I'll just stir that around so it's all combined. This is a pretty good bowl afterwards once it's all combined. This is a great bowl to lick the beaters and lick the bowl. I'm sure Madonna will be into that. Their inner child will come out, which is a good thing. So that's ready, except for I've got to have the dates. And the dates are feeling soft already. So I'm going to take them out of that mixture and I'm going to cut them up. I'll mash them with a fork here. Just drain a bit of that water off. I've got a fork and I'm going to start mashing them. They're almost like bananas consistency now. Just mash them up roughly. And once they're mashed up, I'm going to put them into that mixture. And then that will go into the oven. I'm going to put them in patty papers. What do you call them? Muffin tray papers. And make individual serves. There are other recipes you can get. I remember a lady from one of my previous congregations, her name's Carmel Khan. She made the best sticky date pudding ever. She made it in a ring pan, and then we all got a slice of that. That was awesome. I used to love when meetings were her place, and she would make the best sticky date pudding ever. So this is all mashing up nicely. See how easy it is? That's why I use the hot water and the baking soda, or the bicarb soda. Mix all that up. And pretty soon that's going to go into the mixing bowl. Bob's your uncle. Bob is Madonna's uncle. He was a great guy. We loved him very much. There we go, we'll mix that in. It's going alright. It's going to get stuck in all the beaters. So we'll scrape all that off. Not too much because you want to be able to lick those beaters when you're finished, out of view of the public, of course. You'd never admit to the fact that you do something like that. This is all mixed up nicely. Yep, so you can see it looks like a cake batter mix, because it is a cake batter mix. But that's as simple as it is. You know, the best things in life aren't always difficult. And this recipe here proves that one of the best things in life was, honestly, sticky date pudding is one of the best things in life. It's really simple. I've got some of these fancy parchment papers that I'm going to use, just because they're a bigger size. I don't know whether you're supposed to or not, but I'm going to spray them with a little bit of cooking oil. Just because I did the first time round and it seemed to work all right. Just a little bit. Probably don't need to, but you know, you don't want your sticky date pudding to stick to the papers, do you? So very carefully you want to divide this up into 6, and it really does only just make 6, this recipe mix. You could double it quite easily, but I've actually made 6 prior to this, so I can show you how to do the butterscotch topping and what they look like at the end. These are going to go into a moderate oven, 360 degrees Celsius, 360 degrees Fahrenheit. Do you know what temperature that is Celsius? Can someone out there tell me? 360 Fahrenheit. How's that? Pretty alright? Sorry Madonna, you're not going to get much. But in a minute I'll put these in the oven and they will turn out beautifully. That's all it is, okay? Put them in the oven. And they will go on for, start them off at 25 minutes, but it could take up to 30-35 minutes, just depending on your oven and whether it burns hot or burns cold, wherever it goes. I'm going to hand this over to Madonna. I thought I'd share with you today one of my favourite Bible verses. It's from the book of Psalms. Back in the days before Jesus, before they had organs and other instruments, they wrote a lot of music for worship that was simply accompanied by singing rather than by any musical instrument. And this psalm today probably would have been accompanied by music as well. Psalm 121, and this is one of my favourites. Here it is. I looked up to the mountains. Does my strength come from mountains? No, my strength comes from God who made heaven and earth. He won't let you stumble. You won't fall asleep. God's your guardian, right at your side to protect you. God guards you from every evil. He guards your very life. He guards you when you leave and when you return. He guards you now. He guards you always. You know, I've been a pastor now for too long. I've been a pastor for over 30 years. And one of my very first things I did as a pastor was care for a young couple who lived opposite the church in a caravan park, in a trailer park. And this young couple, the husband was a little bit abusive and the wife was very retiring, I guess, and she became pregnant and lost the baby. The baby died in utero. And so one of the very first things I did for this couple was to bury their stillborn child. And it was a really, really tough thing. And you know, throughout the last 30 years, there's been a lot of tough things that have gone on in my ministry. I've lost count of the amount of funerals I've done. I've lost count of the amount of marriages that have broken up and the families that have become dysfunctional. I've lost count of the amount of tears that have been cried over terrible situations. People have lost jobs. People have lost their purpose. People have been suicidal. People have been anxious and depressed, and even bipolar. And life isn't always pretty, and life isn't always easy. It's just the way it is. But one of the joys I have in being a pastor is to be able to let people know that God is with them in their pain. That Jesus, he knew pain on that cross when he was abandoned by his father and by his friends and family, by those who were supposed to look after him. He knew what pain was. And so he knows what our pain is, and he walks with us in our pain. But the other thing about Jesus is that death and the grave couldn't hold him. That for him, resurrection and life was the last word. And so this Jesus who walks with us in our pain, he also offers us life. And he also offers us meaning and purpose. And you know, sometimes when I've had a difficult week, or sometimes when I've had a pointless week, my favourite time can be mealtime. Cooking a meal or sharing a meal with friends, even by myself, just taking that time to refresh and to replenish and to reflect and to remember that God has been with me, even in dark moments, but God also brings light and life through those dark moments. When the kids were younger, we used to do what was known as the Family Five. We'd talk about the highs of each day and the lows of each day at our mealtime. Great way to have a conversation. And we would pray about those highs and those lows, and we would maybe think of a Bible verse that somehow represented those highs and those lows. And then we would also talk about what a blessing God is and how we bless each other in that as well. So Psalm 21. I look to the mountains to see where my help comes from. My help comes from my God. So this meal I'm preparing today reminds me of that light and that life that God always brings, even in our darkest moments. Now, if you want to see, I cooked some of these earlier. And this is what these sticky date puddings look like when they're cooked. They come out nice little cupcake size. And we're going to work on those a little bit more because they're a little bit dry at the moment. So we're going to need a butterscotch sauce to go with them. And that butterscotch sauce is very easy to prepare as well. I'm going to do it on the stove top. Normal people would do it in a saucepan. I like using a fry pan just because it's bigger and it's easier to see. So into that saucepan, I am going to put a cup. Where did I put my cup? I've lost it. How can I lose a cup? There it is. I'm going to put a cup of brown sugar. I am going to put 60 grams or 4.5 tablespoons of butter, and I'm going to put a cup or 3/4 of a cup of pouring cream. So there's my sugar. Let's add just a little bit more, hey? Now that sugar is going to go into the saucepan. The pouring cream. How much cream did I say? Is anybody listening? No. Pouring cream I need to put in there. Can't get it open. 3/4 of a cup pouring cream. And then I'm going to put in 60 grams or just about 5 tablespoons of butter. This won't take very long to sort itself out at all. About 5 tablespoons I said, so we'll get that done. I love these butters, they tell you exactly how to come. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Perfect. And again, I'm going to cut that in small little pieces, just to make it easier for it to melt in that wonderful mixture. I guess the trick with this is you don't want to cook it too long, or else it will be a bit too toffee-like. For my friend Bev, who sometimes watches a cooking show, she'll like this one, because Bev is a vegetarian, and this is a vegetarian. It's not vegan, obviously, because it's got dairy and eggs in it, but it is vegetarian. There's no chicken in it, there's no meat. So give that a little stir. What you want to make sure is that the sugar's all broken down and it's nice and syrupy, not grainy. As I say, that happens fairly quickly and incorporates pretty nicely. When this is done, I'm going to pour this over the sticky date puddings, and then I am going to top them off. If I was in Australia, I'd get some of that really thick cream that you can get, the double dollop cream, and put some of that on top. You could use a nice vanilla ice cream, and I'd certainly use an organic or natural vanilla bean ice cream just to give it that nice rich flavour. Today I'm going to use a dollop of mascarpone cheese just because I can, and who doesn't like their mascarpone cheese? So this is going really nicely. It looks like it's just about done. You can let that go for a little while. And I will set this out. I'm messy today, aren't I? That's okay, no, it's alright. Put this all out so you can see it. Hopefully that's all out of the way for everybody. I'm going to get my mascarpone out. Mascarpone is a nice cheese that goes really well with sweet things. You could, if you wanted it to be not quite so indulgent, you could mix this 50-50 with Philadelphia cream cheese. Just mix it together and it would come out really nice as well. So let's get this going. So it looks pretty good. And those ones in the oven are still cooking, so we're going to have dessert tonight and tomorrow night. Carla is coming over tomorrow night, so she's going to enjoy dessert with us. That will be ready in a second. This is certainly ready. And all I will do is simply bathe the sticky date pudding in this nice butterscotch sauce. And you can see there's plenty there. You don't want to be shy about this. You need lots of butterscotch sauce just to make it wonderful. So that's how I would serve it. And then I would get the mascarpone or the vanilla ice cream or the double dollop cream and simply top it with that, because that would be pretty awesome. And there it is, sticky date pudding, individual serves. I hope you all like that. I'm wondering if you'd like to join with me in prayer. Prayer can be a very simple thing. It doesn't need to be flowery, it's just simply talking to God, and God knows what our needs are. So how about we pray? Heavenly Father, we thank you for sticky date pudding. We thank you that Jesus is with us in our low times and draws us into life and into resurrection and helps us celebrate as well. So as we end this week and as we breathe a breath of fresh air over this weekend, as we regenerate, help us to reflect on all that has been, on the fact that Jesus has walked with us in those times, and that he also encourages us to celebrate. Be with us as we celebrate together in this sacramental meal. Amen. Now for dinner tonight, and it's going to be very, very simple, I got some chicken breast fillets. I'm going to slice in half so it's quite thin. I'm going to bash it with the hammer a little bit just to tenderize it. And then on top of that, I'm going to place that on a sheet of baking paper, which is slightly oiled on baking paper. Put my chicken on top of the chicken. I'm going to put some basil pesto. You can make your own basil pesto with basil leaves and olive oil and Parmesan cheese and pine nuts. Or you can do what I'm going to do and just get it that's already pre-made from the supermarket. I'm going to coat the chicken with the basil pesto. And then on top of that, I'm going to put some slices of tomato and then put that in the oven. I'll put some cheese on top. I'm going to mix some mozzarella and some Parmesan cheese together and put that on top, put it in the oven, let it cook for 5 or 10 minutes until the chicken's fully cooked. Pull it out, and then on top of that, I'm just going to decorate it with some fresh basil leaves, and that's going to be dinner, dessert,